Hello and welcome. So today we're going to talk about the changes that happened to Stormclaw for Season 3. So Season 3 is about to launch as of this recording less than 12, just over 12 hours from now. And a lot has changed when you take out the blood powers and also there's a new unique, there's a new legendary. A lot has changed with this build. And ultimately, we don't know exactly how strong it's going to be, but it did get a lot of extra support back for what is lost from the vampiric powers. If you played Stormclaw in Season 2, you will know that it was very powerful. We had it ranked as an S tier. It had a ton of attack speed, a lot of damage. It's a really fun build to play. If you've never played it, it is a basic attack damage skill. It's a popular play style where you just use a basic attack. It's very spammable. You don't have to worry about spirit generation. It's also very tanky, and it's pretty fast as well. It's a very good all-around build, and for a while there, I was worried that it was going to be pretty bad this season, but I'm actually pretty optimistic about it at the moment. So most of it's going to come around this Pain Gorger's Gauntlet. So these are a new unique that has been added, that when you damage an enemy with a non-basic skill, it marks them for 3 seconds, and then when a basic skill hits a marked enemy, the basic skill's damage is echoed to all marked enemies, dealing a 200% multiplier, not 200 times multiplier, that'd be insane, a 200% multiplier on the damage. Now, there's a lot of questions of exactly how this is going to work. Is it the first time the basic skill hits, you lose the mark, or is it just every time it hits, the first time it hits it, a marked enemy, then it counts. So you have to reapply the mark. Does you not to reapply the mark for 3 seconds? Also, does it echo upon the enemy that it hits? All this stuff we don't really know until we test it. So how strong exactly it is still in question, but even in the worst case scenario, it's going to be pretty good. In most scenarios, it's going to be very, very good. So this is going to, at least on clear, make this a very strong build still. And if it works in a way where it hits the same target, make it a very strong build in general. So we'll see how that plays out. A lot of how this build is going to end up, where it's going to end up being in the tier list or the pantheon of builds, is going to depend on these uniques, which means that to get the most out of this build now, we need 2 uniques, when before we only needed 1. We did switch out. We used to use Tempest Roar. We got out of that. Now we're back into two uniques. So it's going to be fairly costly, I guess you could say, to get this really up and running. But with the way that the bosses work now, where you can farm uniques, it's not that bad anymore. The other thing that has been added that's a really big boost for this build is adaptability. This is a legendary aspect that we don't care about the first half of it, we only care about the second, which says when cast at or above 50% maximum resource, basic skills deal up to 120% multiplicative damage. So that's a lot of damage, and we will always be above 50% maximum resource, so it's effectively just 120% damage on top. This alone is enough to make up for all that we lost in the vampiric powers, but it's a lot of it. And then when you take that in Pain Gorger, it's possible that we're actually even stronger. We did lose a lot of attack speed, though, so we'll have to see how that plays out. By the way we're going to handle Pain Gorgers, because you do have to mark them, is with Hurricane. So Hurricane's going to be able to mark them, and if they need to be remarked, it will continuously remark them because it hits so quickly. And then if you still need to mark them for some other reason, you can use Shred. So handling this, need to hit it with a non-basic skill, is not going to be a problem. It's just how effective it's going to be is the only question. So those are the 2 things that are going to make this build competitive this season, but there's a lot of other adjustments that we've had to make. For one, Druids got really, really screwed with the loss of Metamorphosis, and we just don't have access to much Unstoppable anymore, because they also kind of killed off Grisly Rage for Unstoppable, to the point to where between that and the critical strike damage changes that were made, so it used to be multiplicative, now it's additive on Grisly Rage, we don't even want to really run it if we can get away from it, and so this build doesn't run Grisly Rage anymore. There's not really a good source of Unstoppable except for Earth and Bulwark, and we do have a variant in there for that. So if you really want a source of Unstoppable that's consistent and also be even tankier, there's a variant that sacrifices some damage to get Earth and Bulwark, the tank variant on there. But the normal variant's not going to use this because it is quite a bit of damage lost. So instead, what we're going to try to do is just minimize the amount of CC duration that we have and just forego Unstoppable, because we can't get it. There's nowhere really to get it. So we'll be using Unrestrained, This is a 30% CC reduction. And also, we're going to use Advantageous Beast with the 15. So the combination of those two, they're probably multiplicative, but they actually might be additive. Either way, it's up to 45% reduced duration. So it's not going to be as good as Unstoppable, but hopefully it's good enough to where we don't feel severely punished for not taking some sort of Unstoppable. And if it happens to be the case that we can still go with the Earth and Bulwark setup, and it will still be good enough. It'll just be less damage. It'll be slower. But either way, we have choices. I don't think anything else significant changed as far as the gear. We did lose... Let's see, we lost Edge Masters. Not a big deal. We are going Earth and Might. So we're going to have Guaranteed Crit, but we did that last season, so that's not a change either. That's going to be the same. We can't use the movement speed here, the significant movement speed. I'm forgetting the name of it. The one we get when we're unstoppable. That doesn't work anymore. We also can't use Tybalt's Will because again, no unstoppable. So that's not an option either. We can still use Mad Wolf's Glee, but it's not insanely good. So it's on the speed farming setup. But we'd rather just at this point, because it only affects 1/2 of the damage we do. It doesn't. It only affects werewolf skills. Storm Strike's not a werewolf skill. So some of the damage gained from Mad Wolf's Glue is not even there. The movement speed's nice, but you lose a lot of damage reduction. We'll just take the damage reduction for now. And if you want to go faster, you can use Mad Wolf's Glee, but it's not going to be in the basic setup. So those are some of the major changes here. Let's see, anything else? A little bit of changes also on the boons. Avian Wrath used to be, and you can see here it's still showing as additive, but in the patch notes it's been changed to multiplicative. So this went from 30% additive critical strike to multiplicative. That's an easy take, so we take that. We lost a lot of attack speed on the build, like we mentioned earlier, so swooping attacks is now in the build, and we're going to lose side talents. We're also not going to worry about ultimate as much because we just don't have the space for it, so we won't have up Petrify as often. We need to put in Masochistic because this build doesn't have a really good source of healing now, because it was getting all of its healing from a Vampiric Power that was insanely good. So this build will have less healing than before, but Masochistic should be enough to more or less hold us together. That and Reconstruct, we're going to take from the new Season 3 power, will also heal us. So those two together should at least make up for most of what we're losing from the Vampiric Power. Speaking of the constructs, we'll talk about these a little bit. These are going to be very up in the air. There's a bunch of them there's a number of them I think will probably stick, but the numbers that we got from Blizzard are very incomplete, and we haven't seen these skills actually work. Some of them we don't even know their attack speed, their duration, how much of something they give. Like this heals the player for a portion of the maximum life over time. Well, how much? We don't know. So don't expect these to hold as they are, which I should probably point out now. Use the Max Roll Guide. So the Max Roll Guide is something I update constantly. To get the most recent information on this build, because that's going to be as up to date as possible. Whereas obviously this video, I can't remake it. I mean, I could remake it, but it'd be brand new. You won't be able to come back to this video and get new information. Go to the Maxwell Guide to get the newest stuff, and I'll have that link below. So Reconstruct will be a way to get healing. We're also going to add on a couple other things on here. Safeguard for more damage reduction. Fortify support, because we don't do great on Fortify in this build. We do okay, but Fortify support gives us even more. So that's good. Duration support will help in Safeguard to be a little bit longer. There's not a lot of good options here, so duration, adding more duration to Safeguard's nice. That should give us basically permanent uptime on Safeguard. On the other side, we'll use Lightning Bolt, we think, because it's got range and it can arc, and hopefully it's got fairly fast attacks. And we give it arcing support to hit even more enemies. And then we got Mockery. Mockery is going to be, I think, a really strong option, because it taunts enemies into your construct, and your construct can't take damage. So it will be getting hit, but not getting hit, which means you're not getting hit. So nothing is taking damage when it's taunting things. That's 100% damage reduction effectively. So I think taunt's going to be a very, very strong option this season. And it's every time it hits an enemy, it lasts for 4 seconds. So that should be really, really solid. Efficiency support for additional critical strike chance isn't like a huge thing for this build, because we are using Earth and Might, but it helps us to proc Earth and Might more often. And then if we get unlucky, it's also going to be in there. So nothing crazy in the construct. The biggest thing is probably utility. Yeah, as far as, or excuse me, not utility, Reconstruct, as far as build changing, I guess you could say, things. Otherwise, nothing major in here, nothing that we really need. The Paragon board is not changed. In fact, that's going to be true for most of the builds, or they're going to not changed or very little changed. Not much happened with the Paragon. So that's good. You'll be able to run the same exact Paragon boards. All right, I think that's everything that we have to worry about on this. Yeah, there's not a ton of other changes. The build's in a pretty good state, I think, once you get Pain Gorgers and once you get Adaptability. But I will update that, of course, and let you know. And I'll probably put out a second video after testing this a little bit, letting you all know exactly how it feels. But overall, I think that Stormclaw's in a pretty good state going into the season, and it has potential to be an S tier build again. We just have to see how Pain Gorgers work. If it works like the best version of how we can interpret it, it's probably going to be S tier again. And if not, then we'll have to see where it plays out. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great time in Diablo 4. I'll be streaming the game, of course, constantly for the next week or so. Please come and hang out with me. Love to talk to you, ask questions, all that stuff. Thanks again. Enjoy your time in Season 3, and I will see you all again real soon.